The rain had just stopped when Kenneth sat on the edge of the narrow bed in the one-room apartment, his shirt half buttoned, his eyes fixed on nothing. The ceiling leaked again that morning. A thin line of water ran down the wall, tracing the cracks like veins on an old palm leaf. Outside, the street was alive with the noise of hawkers, honking tricycles, and the quarrel of two neighbors fighting over a bucket of water. Kenneth sighed. Life, no balance at all, he muttered, as his wife Amaka placed a plate of cold gari and groundnut before him. Amaka was the kind of woman people turned twice to look at, not because she was too beautiful to be real, but because her calmness carried a quiet power. Her beauty was like the morning sun, not too loud, not too shy, just enough to make you stare longer than you intended. When they got married, people said she married down. Kenneth had no stable job, no house of his own, not even a proper pair of shoes for their wedding. But Amaka loved him. She said he had dreams bigger than his pocket, and that one day, those dreams would buy the world for her. That morning, as he ate, in silence, she looked at him with the same eyes she had the day they exchanged vows. Hopeful, trusting, yet weary. You'll be late again, she said softly, handing him his worn-out belt. Kenneth nodded, tying it around his waist with frustration. What's the use of being early when there's no customer to buy anything? He was a street vendor, selling second-hand phone accessories by a busy junction in Surulere, Lagos. The hustle was unpredictable. Some days, he'd make 3,000 naira, other days, nothing. But what pained him most was not the hunger. It was the slow humiliation of watching life pass him by. Every evening, he would return home, drenched in sweat, his voice hoarse from shouting, "Original charger! Air Peaceway, no they spoil." Yet, no matter how much he sold, the money melted away like butter on a hot pot. Amaka, however, kept faith. She ran a small shop in front of the house where she sold provisions. The profit was little, but it kept them fed. She prayed, she saved, she endured. But as the months turned into years, poverty began to test their love. At first, it was small arguments. Over salt, over missing money, over who should pay NEPA bill. Then the arguments turned to quarrels, and the quarrels grew teeth. One night, after a long day of sales gone wrong, Kenneth came home to find the lamp off and the food cold. He snapped. "I work like a slave every day, and you can't even keep light for me," he barked. Amaka looked up from the mat where she sat, mending his torn shirt. "There's no fuel for the generator," she replied quietly. "I waited for you. I thought you would bring some." Something in her calm voice provoked him. He kicked the plate of food, scattering the rice across the floor. "You think I'm made of money, Abi? You want to kill me with expenses." That was the first night his hand touched her. He didn't plan it. The slap came like a mistake, but the sound stayed. Loud, sharp, echoing longer than any word could. Amaka didn't cry. She only touched her cheek and said, "So this is how it starts." Kenneth didn't sleep that night. The guilt gnawed at him, but pride tied his tongue. In the morning, he left without apology. Days turned into weeks. Every fight became a battlefield of ego. Poverty stood between them like a stubborn third person refusing to leave. Yet, they still loved each other. Or at least, they tried to. Love, as they would later learn, is not always enough when hunger becomes a housemate. One Sunday afternoon, Amaka fell ill. The heat was unbearable, and her body burned like charcoal. In a dying fire, Kenneth rushed her to a nearby clinic, but they demanded 15,000 naira before treatment. He had only 2,700 naira in his pocket. Please, she's my wife, he begged the doctor. At least start the treatment. I'll bring the balance. The doctor looked at him with weary pity. Sir, we've heard that story before. Go and look for the money. He ran from house to house, from one friend to another. Nobody helped. Everyone had their own problems. That night, Amaka lay on her bed, weak and sweating. She smiled faintly and whispered, maybe God will remember us one day. Something in those words broke Kenneth. He knelt beside her, holding her hand, and for the first time in months, tears filled his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm just tired. Amaka, I don't want this life anymore. She looked at him and said, then fight harder, but don't fight me. Those words became a seed in his heart. Weeks later, a friend introduced him to a delivery job with a logistics company. The pay was small but steady. For the first time, Kenneth had a uniform, an ID card, and hope. He started saving, even if it was just 1,000 naira a week. Amaka smiled again. Their home became lighter. She cooked more, laughed more, even teased him about his new office job. Life began to change, slowly but surely, until the day God remembered them. Kenneth delivered a parcel one afternoon to a company executive whose car broke down. Out of kindness, he helped fix the tire, and their conversation led to something unexpected. Within a month, he was offered a better paying role as a dispatch supervisor. The salary was more than he had ever imagined. He bought a new phone, new clothes, and eventually a new apartment. He even took Amaka out to eat at a proper restaurant, their first real date since the wedding. She looked at him with pride that night and said, I told you one day God will remember us. Kenneth smiled. Yes, he finally did. But what they didn't know was that sometimes, when God remembers you, the devil also pays attention. And that was the beginning of the storm.